Today we are going to be reviewing every single camera I have shot with since I started film 5 years ago, and I'm going to be giving some tips and tricks that I wish I knew before I started. Welcome to the Gas Show. My name is Jericho. Bada boom, bada bam. Yeah. Okay, we are going to start by reviewing some of these cameras, and we're going to try our best to do a chronological order, starting out with the Canon AE1. I mean, it's a solid camera. I don't necessarily love the feel, but it's a very solid camera. We're going to be doing this by just going over some of the pictures I took. It's going to be reminding me of what I think of the cameras. I'm just going to give some of my thoughts, and then we're going to move on to the next one because we got too many cameras to review. I mean, it's a great starter camera. Here are some of the pictures. Super sharp lens selection, very available. It gets it done. This is the classic one that you always see. The film photographer tropes on like movies or shows, they'll have a Canon AE1 or something that looks like it. It's fine. I'd rate it mid-tier. I guess we're doing a tier system. No, like a solid A-tier camera. A-tier for Canon A. After like a 2 or 3 year break, I picked up a point and shoot, the Minolta P, apostrophe S, the Minolta Ps. It is a point and shoot panoramic only film camera. And there's a lot of film cameras that are point and shoots and come with a panoramic mat that you can like flip a switch and it drops in. Not as fun because you're tempted to switch it to be the full frame. Get one of these or something that like forces you to frame in a panoramic mode. I think it's way more fun. I did a whole video on this as well. You can check that out if you want. And I recommend this camera, S-tier camera. Here are some of the pictures I got. This triptych is one of my favorite pieces of art that I've made, you know, just in general. I shot this on Cinestill 800T. I love these shots. And this is one of the first pictures I ever took with a camera. I don't know why I have beginner's luck sometimes, but I love this fucking shot. That's an S-tier camera. Easy S-tier. And I got that one on eBay. For my next eBay purchase, I bought the Olympus Infinity Telle. This one has the dual lens system. It's got a 70mm lens and a 35. This is a fun camera. I would say this would be an S-tier camera if it didn't sound like this. That is one of the loudest point and shoot cameras I've ever used, and it feels like a big plastic box, which that is what it is. But you know, it gets some good results otherwise. You know, we're shooting film, we've got decent lenses, it's gonna look pretty good. Here's a couple shots I got in Mexico, and then a shot I got at the Redlands Skate Park again. This, I think this shot really exemplifies if you've got some good lighting and you're in the right zone for that point and shoot lens, it could be tack sharp. That's the Olympus Infinity Telle. I would give it an S rating if it wasn't so goddamn loud. So I'm dropping it down to what, like an A tier, B tier? It's okay, another bad thing about it, it's also thick. It doesn't necessarily fit in your pocket. Here, the Minolta P is like a perfect pocket camera. Like it's very thin. Look at it compared. Look at it compared to the size of the Olympus Infinity Telle. Okay, moving on, what's next? This is a semi-popular camera. This is the Olympus MJU Infinity. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I think it's Olympus MJU Infinity, something like that. It's supposed to have a closing door over the lens. But this is a great camera. It's got a high quality lens. Just 35mm. Yeah, this is what you want as far as size, as far as protection with that little cover, sharpness, the flash is nice. Everything about this, it's like a perfect basic point and shoot. Nothing fancy, but it does everything pretty good. And we'll go over some photos real quick. This is just walking around the town with my friend Cam. This is some behind the scenes on a shoot. And then this is a landscape shot with some black and white film. Again, look at all these. They're all sharp. They're all nice. You know, they're all well lit, so it's not gonna be too challenging. I would give it a solid A tier, maybe A+ tier. Speaking of estate sales, we're moving on to our next camera, and possibly my favorite camera of the bunch. We've got the Nikon F3. I made a whole video about the Nikon F3. I recommend you watch that. But this is one of my favorite cameras of all time. And goddamn, this is just such a solid SLR camera. Uses the Nikkor lenses from Nikon, so there's a plethora of good lenses you can use. And then, you know, they work for a really long time. I got this one, I was really lucky to get it in really good condition. It's amazing. Let's take a look at some of the pictures I've gotten with it. I had to limit myself, but I still picked 6. So this one is in Mexico. I was just walking by, taking some pictures on the street. This is on an equestrian photo shoot for an equestrian fashion brand. I just snapped this picture of the model and a horse. You can see I'm using the 35mm lens for this one, and it's just super sharp. We've got this shot with my friend Jacob in the bunny hat, and this is using one of my favorite lenses of all time. It's a Nikkor 16mm f, I think 2.8 lens. It's technically a fisheye lens, but sometimes it looks like just a normal wide angle lens. Gorgeous lens. I love the cool effects you can get with that type of lens, and it's super sharp. Another shot with the same lens, you can see the crazy distortion on the edges. Another shot with that lens, you can tell I like that lens. This one, I'm actually using the flash, the Nikon flash that came with this camera. Everyone tells you not to use this flash because it is really heavy, unwieldy, and the exposure adjustment actually doesn't make that much sense. I would agree with all that, but I think it looks really cool, so I've been using it and turned out great. And yeah, just overall, one of my favorite cameras, easy S tier. So that's the Nikon F3. Okay, after that, I got the Pentax IQZoom. I got this one at another estate sale. I actually learned later this is from the estate of the first ever surgeon to transplant a chimpanzee heart into a child's body and for the child to live. That's crazy. So this was his camera, but it's also a nice point and shoot. I would classify this as like a really chill and high quality zoom. It's got a panoramic option. It is a 28mm to 90mm, and it's got a good flash. It's got a good viewfinder. It feels like a little bit higher quality plastic than like the Olympus Telle and some of the other ones. Let's go over some of the pictures. Here's a portrait of my brother on his wedding day. This is using the panoramic matte. This is a shot using flash at night with my friend Josh. Again, incredibly sharp, good exposure for a flash, nothing too overexposed. This is a more zoomed in shot during the day, just some signs. I forget where this was, but another one where I was like, wow, point and shoot, but still really sharp. This has some of the same issues as the Olympus Telle, where it is kind of just too wide to fit in your pocket. But other than that, it has every feature I could imagine needing in a point and shoot. I would put this in A+ tier. Moving on, after I got this camera from the estate sale, I bought Big Poppy RB67, the medium format camera. The heaviest camera, the most expensive camera on this table, and the only one here that shoots medium format. We're gonna start off with this shot, which is a landscape. Insane amount of detail. This is extremely high resolution, obviously. This was shot on HP5. The Sekor lenses that are on the RB67 are extremely sharp, and they need to be to resolve all that resolution that's in the medium format film, and it looks amazing. We got another shot. This is color in Lone Pine, and then this is from a fashion photo shoot I did with Jacob. And we've got him reflected in the mirror a bunch of times. And then this shot, which really shows off that beautiful separation you get with medium format, where his glasses and face are like perfect in focus. And then like right when you get to his ears, it's like super blurry. That's crazy separation for photography. It gets incredible results, but it requires incredible effort to shoot with. I'm actually getting rid of this. I am selling this. I've loved using it, but I understand why people don't use it. People talk about film slowing you down, making you more intentional. For me, this slows me down to a crawl, and I'm super ADHD, so when I'm shooting, I want to be able to get my ideas out and actually take them before the light goes away. But it's an incredible camera. I would rate it an S tier, but again, yeah, I am getting rid of it, so take that S with a grain of salt. After I got that, in stark contrast, I found the EOS Rebel G at an estate sale. with a 28-105 zoom lens. And this is like a prosumer late 90s, maybe early 2000s film camera. Built-in flash, a bunch of stuff like that. It's like got auto rewind. It basically feels like you're using a DSLR, but it's film. This one is really cool to have just to like run around and shoot like something you normally wouldn't shoot film on, like an event or something like that. I shot an event at Gorza, it's a tattoo and design shop here in Redlands. I shot their 1-year event. It didn't even feel like film because it's such a modern camera. It's very clean. It feels maybe a little bit too clean. So if you're looking for film photography and you don't need all the modern functions, I might shoot for something more like a classic film SLR, like an AE1 or an F3. There are probably better options. I would rate this a D tier. It's none of the charm of film with most of the hassle. You know, it works. I don't have any reason to use it, so that's why I would rate it a D tier. Let's move on to the Samsung Maxima Alpha. When I found this at an estate sale, I was very surprised that Samsung had made film cameras, but I was also surprised with how nice this one is to use. I would say huge bonus, it's small enough to fit in your pocket. It's a zoom. It's 70-35, and it has a great flash in broad daylight. It looks really sharp. I would say it does everything that this camera, the Pentax IQZoom, does in a smaller body. So that is why I like it more. It's also lighter, but it still feels like a high quality build. I would put this in an A tiers. Let's take a look at some of these pictures. I got a shot of clouds. Gotta always get some cloud pictures. Looks good. Picture of my wife Ashley looking gorgeous, pumping gas in her Velma costume. Later in the night of us in our costumes with the flash. This just shows that the flash works really well and it got good exposure. So yeah, easy camera. Okay, and last and possibly least is the Olympus OM-10. I got this one for free in a trade, and it came with a 100-300mm lens, one of the old school pull type lenses, and it's super fun to use. That's about all the benefits I can say about this camera, and it's fine. You know, this lens is kind of hindering, and I've only really played around with it with this lens on. Other than the lens, just the body itself is like super light and small. I could see this being really good for like street photography or just carrying around with you a lot. But this combo might not be all that great. I like to keep it in my bag just to have a camera with 100-300mm telephoto. I'll show you some pictures from it. Here's a shot from inside a parking structure, shooting toward the sun. I included this one because I want to show that it does have good detail with this lens. It's like passing grade. And then this is a shot I shot of some clouds far away. It's a little bit disappointing in the rendering quality of the lens, but I think I was using some expired film, so that could be a part of it also. I would say a B tier, C tier camera. It's fine. Those are my unofficial, official rankings of these cameras that I've used in the past 5 years. Now we're gonna talk about what I wish I knew before I started shooting. One of the first mistakes I learned from was not taking a camera that my dad offered me. When I first started photography, I was all about digital. I thought shooting film was stupid. And yeah, I still kind of think it is in some cases, but I could have learned a lot from starting with that camera that my dad had in the garage. I regret not using it. Second thing, medium format is nice, but good lighting is better. You will get better results with a 35mm camera and thought out lighting than you will with a medium format camera just winging it. Third is 35mm can look better than a professional full frame digital camera, but it can also look worse than your phone, depending on the situation. I think a lot of people who are starting out in film photography or who are thinking about starting out in film photography kind of put it on a pedestal and think that, well, if you take it on a film photo, it looks amazing, right? That is not always the case. Still have to have good subject matter. You still have to have all the good same techniques of photography to take a good image. Film is a tool that you can use, but it is not the most important thing. Another thing I wish I learned, shooting film is so fucking expensive. I definitely underestimated how expensive it was. I saw rolls of film when I first started for like $10 in development for like 12, 14 with digital copies. And I went, that's not that bad. But I wasn't thinking about how many pictures I actually take. That being said, I would say not to necessarily be precious or stingy. As long as you can afford it, I would try and shoot film frequently because it's just fun. You get that little surprise when you get the film back. Go to estate sales. I started off buying cameras on eBay, and that's great. They're pretty expensive though. I keep plugging videos, but I have a whole video about where to buy your first film camera. Check that out. But basically, I can sum it up right now. Go to estate sales. They are cheap and normally well taken care of cameras. And then lastly, the thing I wish I knew before I started shooting film was, as long as you feel confident, you can use film for professional work. Like, the color looks amazing. Don't restrict it to be only a hobby. If you're shooting paid stuff with your digital camera, I would recommend bring along a film camera and add it in there, spice it up. Another thing that film does that's really amazing is it captures beautiful colors that you can then look on your computer alongside your digital pictures, bring in those film photos, maybe compare and kind of tune your edit of the digital to look more like the film. That oftentimes gives you amazing results. Those are all my tips and tricks I wish I knew before I started shooting, and those are all the cameras that I bought to get all this amazing knowledge. Just kidding, it's pretty basic stuff. But this week, GAS stands again for Gear Acquisition Syndrome Incarnate. And next week, who knows what it'll stand for. All right, bye forever.